I will go to the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the importance of the ties of kinship and of family as well. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrates, يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O mankind, the entire creation of mankind, أيها الناس, verily we have created you from a single pair or from a single parent. That's Adam and Eve. And then we have caused you to grow into multitudes of many men and women filling the earth. وَبَثَّ مِنْهُمَا رِجَالًا كَثِيرًا وَنِسَاءً. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says after this, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي تَسَاءَلُونَ بِهِ وَالْأَرْحَامِ. Be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as regards that which you will be questioned about, and also as regards the ties of the womb, the ties of kinship. That's the family. Be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as regards this, and preserve it and protect it, and know that verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is upon them a raqib, one that is a watcher. He's watching what they do, how they act, how they interact, and things like this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to know that verily the family unit is one of the most important affairs in the life of the believer, because it is through your family that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can grant you ease and grant you goodness. And once you live in a way that is in conformity with the faith, with the deen, you will find elevation upon elevation, and you will find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showering His mercy, His rahmah upon the one who tries his or her best to keep family ties, doesn't come between families, doesn't try to break the families. No, striving their best and their hardest to keep family ties. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us about this in this particular surah, Surah An-Nisa, and the very first ayah of this surah, subhanallah, where we learn about the importance of keeping family ties, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equates this or with being mindful about your day, the day of resurrection, about the day that you will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and where those family ties that you kept can be a source of elevation for you in His sight. As if we remember from one of the narrations of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he talked about how Allah would reunite the loved ones in this dunya, those who were they had loved ones and families in this dunya, Allah would reunite them in Jannah because of that sincere love that they had for one another, and the patience they exhibited when Allah tested them by taking the soul of their loved one, and that person did not utter any word except what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is one of the beauties of the faith and one of the beauties of Islam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow our interactions to cease from this dunya as family or cease from this dunya as acquaintances. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equally enables you to have such relationship with one another in Jannah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala admonishes us to be good and to be kind to those who are kith and kin, to those who are relatives, to those who are family, not to despise and envy one another, but to support each other in such a positive way that the one who sees you as a relative or as a brother, ultimately, you are not just brothers alone because of the blood that flows between you, but because of the faith you both have, and that is Al-Islam. That person will ultimately find good with you, as you would also ultimately provide good to them as well. That family tie or that family value that sees us going beyond just the worldly things, where people only want to relate with one another because of what they feel they can get of monetary value or things of status. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that what is with Him is greater and better. And the one who interacts for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Azza wa Jal has stated that He will surely grant them goodness in this world and then grant them goodness in the hereafter.